The other day, my wife and I were looking for something on TV, and she was flipping through Netflix, looking at the different shows and so forth. And a documentary came up for a society that actually lives a pretty long life, lives longer than a lot of other societies and so forth. And, it's from like the Mediterranean area and so forth. And the person talking in the preview was talking about how it has a lot to do with their Mediterranean diet that is low meat. So they don't eat a lot of meat and don't eat a lot of butter. And, this really got me thinking because um, it just shows to me, at least, it shows that the level of confusion out there when it comes to nutrition. So let me give you an analogy here. Um, if you eat an apple and a piece of cake and you're obese and have different health issues, nobody blames the apple. But if you eat a steak and then a piece of cake and you're obese and have health issues, people point to the steak. Well, here's the interesting thing: the common denominator was not the steak or the apple. The common denominator was the cake, the processed food, the food that is cooked in different seed oils like vegetable oils, right? But it just goes to show the bias out there that has been created by the narrative that the food industry has given. And um, this is an issue, right? So, one of the main reasons why those people are living longer is because they're not eating processed foods. They're not eating those seed oils, the vegetable oils, the really bad seed oils, the vegetable oils, the canola oils, and so forth, right? Um, they are still eating meat. They're eating a lot of fish, though it's not as much saturated fat in their diet. I will say that, but the point is that they are eating more whole foods. They are not eating processed foods. And where meat and butter, for instance, gets its bad rap is that people are correlating eating processed foods with the meat and the butter and saying that the meat and the butter is the problem, not the processed foods. So, like for instance, when somebody eats a hamburger, okay, a burger, whatever, um, they're eating red meat, right? Ground beef, but they're eating it with a bun. First of all, the burger may have been cooked in seed oil, and then they're eating it with a bun. Um, they're potentially having French fries with it, cooked in vegetable oils and so forth. And the association that they're giving is that the red meat is bad for you, not the other stuff. When somebody eats a Mediterranean diet, they are not eating those French fries, those foods cooked in vegetable oil or whatever. Um, that is your difference there. There are so many problems that are because of the processed foods and so forth. And if you cut those processed foods, whether you're eating carnivore, you're eating keto, you're eating a Mediterranean diet, you're eating vegan, whatever, if you cut those processed foods and you're eating more whole foods, you're gonna be healthier and could potentially live longer because of that. But to say that meat is the problem or butter is the problem just does not add up. You go back to before we had the seed oils, the vegetable oils, canola oils. Like originally, vegetable oil wasn't even made to be consumed by people, right? And you go back and look at before eating that kind of stuff, people were eating meat and they weren't having the same problems with these different diseases, the heart disease and diabetes and so forth. And in this preview of this documentary, this person mentioned, heart disease and diabetes and so forth because of eating red meat, or didn't even say red meat. He just said because of eating meat. And that just does not correlate because we used to eat meat and we didn't have that problem. The difference is that now we have all this processed food and these seed oils and, but nobody mentions that that's the problem. That's the reason for obesity, heart disease and other diseases, diabetes and so forth, right? It's not that. It's meat, which wasn't a problem before they say it's the meat. So, again, you're eating a bun with it, you're cooking it in seed oils and so forth, and you're having French fries. You're eating these carbs with the meat. And I've talked about this before. What this does is it kicks in the Randall cycle. So the Randall cycle, if you're eating fat and carbs at the same time, that's when it kicks in. So your body needs fat or carbs for energy, right? It uses the fat or the carbs for energy for your body. You need it to survive. What the problem is when you're mixing a large amount of fat and carbs together. When you do that, your cells start to lock out the excess, and you now have excess carbs being turned into glucose in your body, and it's getting into your blood sugar. And now this is causing things like metabolic disease and insulin resistance and so forth, which later down the road is causing issues like diabetes, heart disease, obesity, fibromyalgia, and other autoimmune diseases. That is the main problem. When you're eating the standard American diet, you're mixing your foods like meats, fats like butter and so forth with those carbs, those seed oils, vegetable oils that are really bad for you. And you're having that happen. When you're doing the Mediterranean diet, you're not using all those vegetable oils and seed oils and so forth. You tend to use a lot of the extra virgin olive oil for your cooking, but you're eating a lot of whole foods. You're not using the processed foods. You're not bringing into your body as much sugar and glucose and so forth. And you don't have as much of the issue there. Same thing with if you're eating a carnivore diet or a keto diet where you're going low carb, right? You're eating more fat, and that's helping to fuel your body. And you're not eating nearly as many carbs. And if some cases, if you're going full carnivore, you're not eating any carbs at all. And again, you're seeing those people are healthy. So the problem is not the meat, it's mixing things and not correlating what the real problem is. Again, I go back to the whole analogy with the apple and the cake or the steak and the cake. Nobody is going to say that the apple is the problem, right? They're going to say it's the cake that is the problem. But when it comes to the steak and the cake, a lot of people say, well, it's the steak. That's your problem. You're eating meat. And that doesn't correlate because if the cake was the problem with the apple, then shouldn't the cake be the problem with the steak as well? Why as a society are we not owning up to what is the real problem? The real problem is the cake. It is the processed foods, the sugary foods, the carbs that are just really bad for us, the seed oils, the vegetable oils, the canola oils. I mean, when you make cake, you're using vegetable oil. It's right in the ingredients of making a cake if you're making your own cake. So as a society, we need to realize that we are not thinking properly here. We are not thinking logically, and we are just blaming something just because other people told us that we should blame that instead of correlating what is really the problem.